Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and every week I take a look at the real estate market in Central Florida, especially the Villages. The Villages, for those of you who don't know, is a 55 plus community with many golf courses. There are 43 executive golf courses and 13 championship golf courses. There are live bands in 3 different town squares every evening. Recreation, shopping, dining, many social activities, all the clubs you could want. The Villages is Disneyland for adults, if you will, especially if you're retired. I am not. I'm a realtor here, and my focus is on educating you and giving you a good idea as to what prices are doing here. If you're a buyer, I hope that you consider using me. I believe that our approach, focusing on value, will be to your benefit. Similarly, if you are a seller, I believe that our data will be able to justify the highest reasonable asking price for your property. If you want to know what the long-term trends are on prices, price per square foot, how many homes are selling, how many homes are going pending, if you want to get a perspective on the differences between the different regions of the Villages, I've divided it into 4 geographic areas. This is the show for you if you want to be informed. We're going to look at long-term charts. We're going to look at current data. Everything is fresh as of today, the 5th of August, 2024. A couple of things to note. The Villages has 2 distinct marketplaces, the VLS and the MLS. The MLS is the same real estate market you're familiar with from other areas of the country, the multiple listing service. The Villages has its own internal listing service. The VLS is the only place where you will find new properties listed, but pre-owned homes are on both the VLS and the MLS. What that means is that if you only have a VLS broker, you will not be able to see MLS properties. And if you only have an MLS broker, you will not be able to see VLS properties, i.e., you will not be seeing everything available for sale. The other things to note are all this information is drawn from the MLS, not the VLS. We produce this show every week. Make sure you check the date to ensure you're getting the most recent information. If you find the information valuable, please consider liking or subscribing to the channel. Really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at either DavidisinFlorida.com or DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. Be happy to help you whether you're a buyer or a seller. And if you're a buyer and trying to find a good deal, I think you'll find that our data-driven approach will give you confidence you're getting a good deal. And if you're a seller, I think you'll find our data-driven approach will give you confidence that the asking price you've chosen is the correct one. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening this week. We start every week by taking a look at the yield on the 10-year bond, which you can see this week is down dramatically, about 3/4 of a percentage point lower than it was a week ago. We're looking at close to 6% 30-year mortgages now. And while this might seem like good news, it is not. The reason that yields are down so dramatically is because people are fleeing all other assets, stocks, bonds, Bitcoin, and the fact that all of this panicked money is buying the 10-year note for safety reasons is no reason to have any feeling of calm about interest rates here in the future. It's my belief that the U.S. is on a trajectory that is unsustainable with our borrowing. Hard to believe that we can continue borrowing $100 trillion every 100 days. I can guarantee you that will not continue indefinitely. What that means for real estate prices, who knows? But as we speak today, the Dow is down 1,000 points, which is about 2.5% for equities. We haven't seen any kind of movement of a similar type in real estate yet. If people are getting out of equities, they will be getting out of real estate. So let's now take a look at the Villages specifically. I'm going to zoom in on the Villages. We're starting with a view of Florida to give you some orientation as to where the Villages is. The map that you're looking at, every dot represents an active listing on the MLS. The size of the circle represents the size of the home. The color of the circle represents its price per square foot. We're going to zoom in on Lake Sumter, and I'm going to alternate between the price and the price per square foot. And as you look at this map, which is showing you the same properties, you can get some idea as to how looking at it on a price per square foot basis can really help you isolate deals as a buyer. I've broken the villages down into four distinct regions. Once again, on these maps, every dot is an active listing. The size of the circle represents the size of the home. The color of the circle represents its price per square foot. And the first area is the area that I'm calling the north, which is everything south of 42 and north of 466. The second area is the mid-north, which is everything south of 466 but north of 466A. The third area is everything south of 466A and north of 44, which I'm calling the mid-south. And finally, the area that I'm calling the south is everything south of Highway 44. And we're going to take a look at the differences between these regions, how prices, price per square foot, sizes, and activity varies. You'll get some idea as to where activity is happening here in the villages. We'll start by taking a look at a long-term chart. This is showing us how many listings there are in the villages. This week, 456 active listings. Last week, 455. A year ago, there were only 297. Currently, in the villages, prices range from 142,000, which is unchanged from the original asking price, to just under $3 million, which is also unchanged from the original asking price. Looking at this graph, you can get some idea that the trend line for number of listings is still going higher. Just to prove this point, we can take a look at number of listings over the last year, and you can see that the trend line is steadily moving higher. So now let's dive into these listings a little deeper. We're looking at the entirety of the villages here. 456 active listings ranging in size from 875 square feet to 4,216 square feet. Price per square foot ranging from 110 to 789 a foot. The prices for homes for sale in the villages currently range from 142,000 to 2,950,000. But the median priced home here is 380,000. Let's take a look at the different regions, see how they differ. This is the north, 194 active listings. Smallest home for sale in the north, 875 square feet. Largest, almost 3,000 square feet. Price per square foot ranges from 110 to 448. And the prices of homes currently available in the north range from 142,000 to 1,020,000. This is the mid-north, 143 active listings. Smallest home, 1,100 square feet. Largest, 4,216. Price per square foot in the mid-north ranges from 203 to 600. And prices for the homes there currently are between 260,000 and 1,225,000. This is the mid-south, one of the most desirable areas in the villages between 466A and 44. The sizes of the homes currently range from 1,156 to 3,875 square feet. There are only 48 active listings at a price per square foot ranging from 210 to 789. Prices for listings in the Mid-South range from 300,000 to 2,950,000. And this is the south, currently 71 homes offered, ranging in size from 961 square feet to 2,183 square feet, per foot ranging from 230 to 428, and prices for homes in the southern part of the villages range in price from 235,000 to 849,000. It has been pointed out that the increase in activity in the south might be due to the fact that if you buy a new home, you're essentially prohibited from putting it on the market for the first year. That period is now elapsing. We may start seeing increasing activity in the south. So let's go back to some long-term charts. We're looking at the listing price per square foot for all listings on the MLS. This week, $259.42 a foot. Last week, $259.80 a foot. Last year, $258.55 a foot. You can see, looking at this graph, that over the last year, prices have barely budged. This is a graph that's probably going to be getting worse for sellers. This is the median time on the market for all listings. This week, 59 days, barely improved from last week's 60 days, and also worse than last year's 55 days on the market. The summertime is a slower season here in the villages, and I would expect this number to be increasing. So this is an interesting chart. This is the number of new listings and the number of homes going pending on a week by week basis. Keep in mind the graph is a 4-week smoothed average and the numbers you see are actual weekly data points. This week, 41 new listings, 34 homes going pending. Last week, 34 homes newly listed, 43 going pending. Last year, 36 homes listed and 38 going pending. It's interesting to note that both last year and last week, there were more homes going pending than being listed. This week, the number of new listings exceeds the number of homes going pending. This graph is a result of subtraction on the previous graph. We just subtract the number of new listings from the number of pending home sales. If the number is positive, it means that more homes went pending than were listed. If the number is negative, it means more homes were listed than went pending. As you can see, last week the number was negative, 7 more homes listed than went pending. The week before, 9 more homes went pending than were listed. A year before, 2 more homes went pending than were listed. Numbers that are positive mean that inventory should be decreasing. Numbers that are negative means that inventory should be increasing. So you can make your own determination which is good for buyers and sellers. So let's take a look at the homes that left the market last week. These are the homes that went pending last week at a median price of $251.69 a foot, improving from the $244.31 of the previous week, but we are still lower on price per square foot on the homes that went pending versus the homes that went pending a year ago. We keep an eye on this graph. This is the median time on the market for the homes that went pending over the last 7 days. Graph is an average. The data points are actual weekly numbers. Last week, the median time on the market for the homes that went pending was 45 days, about the same as the 44 days of the previous week, but this is still higher than the 37 days on the market for the homes that went pending a year ago. We think this graph is interesting. This represents the change from the original list price for the homes that went pending last week. Last week's homes had a median price reduction of 4.26%, a big improvement from the 6.29% that the homes that went pending the previous week had to offer, and the previous year that was as high as 6.97%. It looks like pricing pressure on sellers is diminishing, but we'll see as activity slows if they can stay strong. So we're going to take a look at the villages as a whole and the 4 regions as I've described them. First, let's take a look at the price distribution. You can see how many homes are available at each price point for the villages as a whole on the right and for the 4 regions as described on the left. The x-axis is showing you the price and the y-axis is showing you how many listings there are at that price in each of these regions. If you're trying to get some sense as to where you might find value, here we're looking at the price per square foot and how many properties are available at that price per square foot for the villages as a whole on the right, for the north, middle, south, and south on the left. And you can see clearly where you can find homes in specific price ranges, which regions you'll find them in. One more look for those who are focused on the size of the home. You're looking at the same information, size distribution, the villages as a whole on the right, the 4 regions as I've described them on the left, and this is showing you how many properties at each of these sizes is available in each of these regions. So now let's look at sales. This is the number of sales every week. The graph is a smooth 4-week average. The data points you see are actual weekly numbers. This week, 43 sales. Previous week, 26. A year before, 35. Homes that sold ranged in price from $190,000, which was a 17% reduction from $230,000. And the most expensive home that closed over the last 7 days closed at $890,000, was originally $929,000, which is a 4% discount. Here we keep track of the price per square foot realized on the homes that closed last week. Last week, $252 a foot. The week before, $236. The year before, $259. And you can see that even though last week was an improvement, the trend line is still lower. We don't show this graph every week, but perhaps it's time we start. We're looking at the median time on the market for all the homes that closed last week. They were on the market a median 51 days compared to 34 days for the previous week and compared to 37 days for the previous year. The graph is a smooth 4-week average, but if you look at the graph, you can see that 51 is uncomfortably close to the longest period that we've seen for homes to close. So we come to two new charts we've started keeping. We're keeping track of sales per week, give us some perspective as to how things progress year to year. For the last week, there were 43 transactions that closed. Previous year, only 35, and 2022, only 19. This certainly is an encouraging print. We were looking at lower activity through the end of the year. Activity over the last week may make us rethink that. This is the second of the newer charts. We're keeping track of how many weeks of inventory are currently available in the villages. We derive this by dividing the number of active listings by the number of sales over the previous 7 days. And because sales were up last week, weeks of inventory is down this week, representing 11 weeks of sales. Last week it was 16, and a year ago it was only 8. So now let's look at all of MLS once again. These are all active listings on the MLS. We're looking at what percentage have reduced their asking price from the original list price. This week, 52.41% have. Last week, 53.19% had. And a year ago, 54.88% had reduced their price. We'll have to see if sellers can stay strong through the slow summer months. And here we look at what the actual discount is. This week, the median decrease from the original asking price is a reduction of only 4.02%. Last week, it was 4.09. Last year, it was 4.6. It's interesting to note that sellers do seem more calm this year. They're not reducing prices as aggressively, but we are just heading into the slow season. We'll see how the year develops. That is this week's look at the Villages real estate market. If you're a buyer and you're trying to find a good deal, or you're a seller and you're trying to realize the maximum return you can in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to me, DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com or DavidisinFlorida.com. I'll be happy to answer questions about life in Florida, Central Florida, or life in the Villages itself. I hope to hear from you. Take care.